I never imagined that grief could smell so sweet. The funeral hall was drenched in the scent of lilies, their fragrance clinging to my black silk blouse until it felt suffocating. I sat there, perfectly still, hands folded in my lap, trying to remember how to breathe like a normal person. Everyone thought I was the picture of composure. Emily Bennett, the devoted wife, the graceful widow. I nodded at condolences, accepted hugs, whispered, "Thank you," when people told me how strong I was. But inside, my heart was a storm, 1,000 questions crashing against the walls of my chest. The service had just ended when I felt a hand on my shoulder. I turned and saw my sister, Claire, standing too close, her face pale and tense. She asked me to step outside with her, said it was urgent. Out in the church garden, away from the murmurs of guests, she took a deep breath and blurted out the words that nearly knocked me off my feet. "Emily, my son, Mason, he's Daniel's child." I stared at her, numb. She wasn't finished. With trembling hands, she pulled out an envelope. "This is Daniel's will. You should read it." My fingers went cold as I reached for it. The world around me blurred, the flowers, the sky, even Claire's face, as the envelope crinkled in my grip. Everything I thought I knew about my Maria I was only 24 when I married Daniel. Back then, life felt like a movie I had somehow been cast in, the kind where the girl gets everything she ever wanted. Daniel was charming, confident, a little reckless in ways that made me feel alive. I used to lie awake at night listening to the sound of his breathing, thinking, this is what forever feels like. My parents had always been cautious about him. "He's too impulsive, Emily," my mother had said the night before our wedding, standing in the kitchen with a dish towel clenched in her hands. "Marriage isn't about grand gestures. It's about stability." But I didn't want stability. I wanted passion, the kind that made my heart race. And Daniel gave me that. Claire, my older sister, smiled through the wedding photos, but I could tell she didn't approve either. She always had a way of making me feel like the silly little sister who didn't know what she was doing. I brushed it off. I was in love, and for a while that was enough. The first real crack in the marriage came a year later. Daniel had been working late nights, coming home smelling of whiskey and expensive cologne. One night, I found a lipstick-stained receipt in his jacket pocket from a hotel bar. When I confronted him, my hands shaking so badly, I nearly dropped the receipt. He laughed. Do you really think I'd cheat on you? That's just a client dinner. You've got to trust me." I wanted to believe him. I did believe him. I remember slipping the receipt into my dresser drawer, like locking it away would make the doubt disappear. That same night, my grandmother's words came back to me. She'd once given me a small silver locket and told me, "A strong woman knows when to hold on and when to let go, but never forget who you are in the process." I put that locket around my neck, closed the clasp, and decided to fight for my marriage. Whatever was happening, I wasn't going to let gossip or insecurity ruin what Daniel and I had built. I just didn't know that my biggest heartbreak was still ahead of me, and it would come from the last person I ever suspected. After that night, I threw myself into being the perfect wife. I learned Daniel's favorite meals, decorated our home just the way he liked, hosted dinner parties with a smile plastered on my face. On the outside, we looked like a picture-perfect couple, the Bennetts, young and thriving. But I could feel the distance growing. Sometimes he'd come home late, loosen his tie, kiss me absently, and head straight to the shower. I'd sit on the couch, my hands still smelling like garlic from dinner, wondering if this was what marriage was supposed to feel like. I started looking for little ways to fill the emptiness. I signed up for a night class in marketing at the community college. At first, Daniel teased me about it. What do you need a marketing degree for? You've got me." But I kept going. Slowly, that class became my escape. I discovered I had a knack for branding and communication, and one of my professors encouraged me to apply for a social media internship at a small startup. I got the position, and for the first time in years, I felt seen. Not as Daniel's wife, just as Emily. Those first few months were brutal. I'd wake up early to make Daniel's breakfast, work all day, then spend evenings scheduling campaigns or editing copy. There were nights I cried in the bathroom so Daniel wouldn't hear me, from exhaustion, from loneliness, but there was a stubborn fire in me that wouldn't let me quit. I learned how to negotiate with clients, how to pitch ideas, how to trust my instincts. My first big win was landing a regional restaurant chain as a client. The campaign went viral locally, and my boss rewarded me with a raise. I remember sitting in my car afterward, gripping the steering wheel, whispering, "You did this. On your own." And I kept it quiet. When my family asked how things were going, I'd shrug and say, "Good. Busy." I didn't tell them about the late nights, the promotions, the slow climb toward something bigger. I guess part of me wanted to prove, silently, that I could build a life beyond being Daniel's wife. Sometimes, though, there were moments that made my stomach twist. Like the afternoon I found a candid photo of Daniel and Claire together in his phone gallery. They were laughing about something, standing far too close for comfort. He brushed it off when I asked, said Claire had stopped by his office to drop off documents. I told myself I was overthinking, and so I kept moving forward. I built my reputation, saved every bonus, even started a small marketing firm of my own under a separate name. It became my secret world, a place where I was powerful, capable, and independent, even if no one else knew it yet. What I didn't realize was that all this quiet strength I was building would one day become the very thing that saved me. The lawyer's office smelled like leather and old paper, the kind of place where secrets came to die. I sat in a high-backed chair, the envelope Claire had given me resting on my lap like it was made of lead. My pulse was steady now, calmer than I expected. Claire sat across from me, twisting her hands in her lap. Mason, her teenage son, my husband's son, waited outside. The air felt tight, as if the whole room was holding its breath. The lawyer, a graying man with rimless glasses, adjusted his files and cleared his throat. "Mrs. Bennett, thank you for coming in. I know this is difficult, but your husband left very specific instructions in his will." His words felt distant, like I was listening underwater. I opened the envelope slowly, careful not to rip it. Inside was Daniel's handwriting, strong, deliberate, almost smug. "Emily," it began, "if you are reading this, then I am gone. I need you to know that Mason is my son. I've made arrangements to secure his future. Half of my assets will go to him, through Claire. Half of everything we built together." I set the letter down carefully, smoothing the creases with my thumb. My face was calm, but inside, my chest burned. I could feel Claire watching me, waiting for me to scream or cry or fall apart. But I didn't. Instead, I let my eyes travel slowly around the office, the polished mahogany shelves, the framed degrees, the quiet ticking of the wall clock. Everything felt painfully still. When I finally spoke, my voice was even. "So this is why you pulled me aside at the funeral. You wanted to make sure I heard it from you before the lawyer did." Claire flinched. I thought it would hurt less if... Less. My laugh was soft, almost disbelieving. "Claire, you had an affair with my husband. You kept his child a secret for 16 years. And now you're worried about my feelings?" Her eyes filled with tears. "I never meant for it to happen, Emily. It was a mistake. A stupid, horrible mistake. But Mason, he's innocent. He deserves to know where he comes from. Daniel wanted to take care of him." I leaned back in my chair, letting her words hang in the air. A part of me wanted to throw the letter in her face, to demand answers, to rage about all the nights I cried over a marriage I thought I was saving. But another part of me, the part that had survived lonely nights, long hours, and the quiet building of my own world, stayed perfectly still. "Fine," I said at last, my voice steady. "If Daniel wanted to take care of Mason, then Mason will be taken care of. But not like this. Not without conditions." Claire blinked, confused. "Conditions?" I stood then, smoothing my skirt, letting the heels of my shoes click against the hardwood floor. I felt taller somehow, more solid than I had in years. "Yes," I said. "You'll get what Daniel left you, but you'll do it my way." The lawyer looked between us, clearly sensing a storm brewing. Claire just nodded, her throat working as if she couldn't find her voice. For the first time since the funeral, I felt a strange calm wash over me. This wasn't just betrayal anymore, it was a turning point. I wasn't going to be the quiet, obedient wife cleaning up her husband's messes. I was about to set the terms.
I didn't sleep that night.
Instead, I sat in my office, my own office, with its floor-to-ceiling windows and city lights spilling across the dark hardwood, drafting a plan. By morning, I knew exactly what I needed to do. We met again the next day in the same lawyer's office. This time, I was ready. I arrived early, placed my leather portfolio on the table, and waited. When Claire walked in, her eyes darted nervously to my face. "I've decided to honor Daniel's will," I began, my tone calm but firm. "But there will be conditions attached to Mason's inheritance." Claire sank into her chair. "What kind of conditions?" "The kind that turn this from a payout into an opportunity," I said. "Mason will receive his portion of Daniel's assets, but it will be placed in a trust. He'll only gain full access if he graduates from college or starts a legitimate business. No aimless spending. No reckless choices. Daniel might not be here, but I won't let his son grow up without direction." Claire nodded, looking relieved, but I wasn't done. "And as for you," I continued, "there are terms for you too." Her head snapped up. "You will stop pretending this never happened," I said. "No more secrets. No more whispers. Mason deserves the truth about who his father was, the good and the bad. And you," I paused, choosing my words carefully, "you will go to therapy. Work through the choices you made. Because I refuse to carry the weight of your guilt any longer." Her face crumpled, tears streaming silently down her cheeks. "Emily, I don't know if I can face all that." "You can," I said softly. "And you will. Because I'm done living in a world where my pain is swept under the rug to keep everyone else comfortable." I slid a printed agreement across the table. "These are the terms. If you agree, we move forward. If you don't, we take this to court. And I promise you, Claire, I will fight for every penny." The lawyer's eyebrows rose slightly, clearly impressed. Claire stared at the papers, her fingers trembling as she reached for the pen. When she finally signed, I felt an almost physical weight lift from my chest. Not because justice had been served, life was rarely that clean, but because for the first time in years, I wasn't reacting. I was leading. As we left the office, Claire stopped me at the door. "I'll do what you asked," she said quietly. "And I'm sorry. Truly." I nodded once.
"Good.
Because this isn't just about money, Claire. It's about respect. And it starts today." Weeks passed and slowly, change began to ripple through our lives. Mason focused on school, determined to honor the terms of the trust. Claire started therapy, sometimes reluctantly, but I could see the relief in her eyes as she worked through years of guilt and regret. It wasn't perfect, but for the first time in a long time, there was honesty between us. Messy, complicated, but real. I, too, began to let go. I wore the silver locket my grandmother had given me all those years ago, and one evening, as I held it in my hand, I finally understood her words. A strong woman knows when to hold on and when to let go. I had held on to my marriage, to my pain, to secrets that were never mine to carry. Now I could let go and still stand tall. Sitting in my office, watching the sun set over the city skyline, I thought of Daniel, the man I had loved, the man who had betrayed me, the man who had left me with so much heartbreak. I didn't forgive him. Not fully, but I forgave myself for the years I spent believing the image of a perfect life was real. I had built my own world quietly and steadily, out of resilience, late nights, and stubborn hope. And now that world was mine to claim, unshaken by betrayal or loss. The people around me, my family, my sister, even Mason, were finally stepping into accountability, guided by the boundaries I had set. I touched the silver locket one last time and smiled. My reflection in the office window showed a woman who had been tested by grief, betrayal, and heartbreak, and had emerged unbroken, fierce, and whole. I whispered to the empty room, my voice steady and clear. "I loved, I lost, I rose, and I will never be small again."